Welcome to the show. In this episode, we are going to discuss TikTok and its current state in the US. Before we dive in, please hit the thumbs up, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. We appreciate that. Hit the bell icon so you get notified whenever we drop a new episode. And so let's dive right in. Why is TikTok getting banned? And what's behind the law that could shutter the app? So this morning, I woke up and tried to log into TikTok or open the app, and discovered that I no longer had access to the app. All right, let's take a look at what's going on. The 170 million TikTok users in the US could be in for a rude awakening today as they wake up if they suddenly find the enormously popular video sharing app inaccessible because of a law passed by a bipartisan majority in Congress last year. Lawmakers and U.S. officials have sounded the alarm for years about the supposed risks that TikTok's ties to China pose to national security, and Congress moved last year to force TikTok's Chinese parent company, ByteDance, to sell its stake in the app or be cut off from the U.S. market. The law gave the company a deadline of January 19, which is today, one day before a new president would take office. So, ladies and gentlemen, that deadline is now here, with no sign of a sale in sight. TikTok's last-ditch legal challenge failed on Friday when the Supreme Court said the law does not violate the First Amendment. The Biden White House said it will leave enforcement of the law to the incoming Trump administration, and President-elect Donald Trump has vowed to save the app. But TikTok has hinted that it could still take itself offline once the law is in effect, a move that would leave content creators and users in the lurch as the company seeks a way to get back on firm legal footing. Here is what to know about the TikTok ban and how we got here. Let's take a look together. Why did Congress want to ban TikTok in the first place? U.S. officials have repeatedly warned that TikTok threatens national security. Why? Because the Chinese government could use it as a vehicle to spy on Americans or covertly influence the U.S. public by amplifying or suppressing certain content. In simple English, they could use it to spread propaganda. They could use it to spread fake videos and deep fakes where it looks like it's somebody saying something, but it's a video of their face, but it's not really what they said. And so on and so forth. The concern is warranted, they said, because Chinese national security laws require organizations to cooperate with intelligence gathering. FBI Director Christopher Wray told House Intelligence Committee members last year that the Chinese government could compromise Americans' devices throughout the software. Here's what they're saying. there are 170 million Americans on this app. Half the country, essentially. Half the population of the country. So, with that sort of power, the Chinese government could easily compromise American devices and would be a widespread catastrophe. As the House took up the divest or ban law in April 2024, and what I mean by that is they said, sell the U.S. entity to an American, otherwise we're going to shut this thing down. Representative Michael McCaul, a Texas Republican, compared it to a spy balloon in Americans' phones. By spy balloons, he means it's been known and it's been discovered by U.S. Defense Forces where a Chinese or a foreign nation flies a balloon in the sky that looks innocent, but it's actually a remote control device that goes close to air bases and technological areas and photographs what's going on the ground without physically being there, right? Surveillance. So when we look at it, that's what, the Texas Republican is comparing it to when he said a spy balloon in Americans' phones, as opposed to being in the air. Senator Chris Coons, a Democrat from Delaware, said that lawmakers learned in a classified briefings how rivers of data are being collected and shared in ways that are not well aligned with American security interests. Why is this a security threat? Republican Senator Josh Hawley of Missouri said on Friday, if you have TikTok on your phone currently, it can track your whereabouts. It can read your text messages. It can track your keystrokes. It has access to your phone records. So if the Chinese government gets its hands on that information, it's not just a national security threat, it's a personal security threat, according to Hawley. In 2022, TikTok began an initiative known as Project Texas to safeguard American users' data on servers in the U.S. and ease lawmakers' fears. The Justice Department said the plan was insufficient because it still allowed some U.S. data to flow to China. Keep in mind, guys and listeners, that we're talking about world powers. So it's USA versus China. Though the, divest or ban law passed with bipartisan support, some lawmakers have been critical of the measure, agreeing with TikTok that it infringes on Americans' free speech rights. Right? We should be able to use it. Most of the reasons the government banned it were based on accusations, not proof, according to Republican Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, which he said on Friday. TikTok has never been tried and found guilty of sharing information with the communist government. So others have changed their tune as the deadline for a ban neared, including Trump, who tried to ban the app with an executive order during his first term that was struck down in the courts. The irony in all of this is that Donald Trump was the first one to point out there's a problem. Senator Mark Warner of Virginia, the top Democrat on the Senate Intelligence Committee, said Thursday. Warner said the Trump administration did a great job of convincing me and overwhelmingly, members of Congress about the risks. So, TikTok then has its day at the Supreme Court, the top court in the US. So during arguments before the Supreme Court on January 10th, TikTok's lawyers did not deny the potential national security risks, as the justices appeared critical of the company's legal challenge. I think Congress and the president were concerned that China was accessing information about millions of Americans, tens of millions of Americans, including teenagers, people in their 20s, that they would use that information over time to develop spies, to turn people, to blackmail people. People who, a generation from now will be working for the FBI or in the CIA or in the State Department, Justice Brett Kavanaugh said. Is that not a realistic assessment by Congress and the president of the risks here? What he's saying is people who are currently on TikTok who are young are going to be people who are going to be working for national security not so long from now. Noel Francisco, who represented TikTok, responded, "I'm not disputing the risks. I'm disputing the means that they have chosen." So, Solicitor General Elizabeth Prelogar asserted that TikTok collects unprecedented amounts of personal data that would be incredibly valuable to the Chinese government by giving it a powerful tool for harassment, recruitment, and espionage. Interesting. So for years, the Chinese government has sought to build detailed profiles about Americans, where we live and work, who our friends and co-workers are, what our interests are, and what our vices are, she said, citing major data breaches that the U.S. has attributed to China over the last decade, including the hack of the Office of Personnel Management that compromised the personal information of millions of federal employees. So, what's the Supreme Court's TikTok decision? They have the last say. In defending the law before the Supreme Court, the Justice Department pointed to two main national security justifications: countering China's collection of data from TikTok's 170 million US users and its purported ability to manipulate content on the app to further its geopolitical interests. Keep that number in mind, guys and listeners. 170 million. We're talking about the equivalency of countries and countries and countries in Europe, for example. That's a lot of people. The Supreme Court's unanimous ruling hinged on the first justification, that China, through the app and its parent company, Beijing-based ByteDance, can amass vast amounts of information from American users. The justices found that Congress did not violate the First Amendment by taking action to address that threat. So, Congress, it said, had good reason to single out TikTok for special treatment. The court refrained from backing the government's interests in stopping China's purported covert manipulation of content, which the Biden administration had cited as a national security justification for the law. One man's covert content manipulation is another editorial discretion, Gorsuch wrote in an opinion concurring in judgment. Journalists, publishers, and speakers of all kinds routinely make less than transparent judgments about what stories to tell and how to tell them. Without question, the First Amendment has much to say about the right to make those choices. That brings us to the end of the episode. This is a story we're going to continue following, as apparently when Trump gets inaugurated tomorrow, he's looking to give TikTok 90 more days, I believe. 90 more days. So he might overturn the ban or try to overturn the ban and give TikTok 90 more days to see if Americans can keep using it. That will take us into the spring. So this is a very interesting story to keep on top of, as many news outlets are covering the fact that a lot of people make their livelihood on this app. Homeless people have been known to be found on TikTok, maybe by going live and playing music, or a food enthusiast who has developed a cooking channel and now has an audience there, or a traveler who has shown people the world through their phones. So, apart from the app being shut down for government or security reasons, there is this discussion that people have built a platform, people have built businesses, and for a lot of people, TikTok is their livelihood, or at least part of it. So they're waking up this morning and to find out that the 80,000 followers that you've built over the years now means nothing. You have no access to the app. Leave a comment. I really would like to know what everybody thinks. Whether you think it's a good thing to ban it because, it's creating a generation of attention deficit youth, because we're so used to this 15-second or 2-second swipe environment. Or whether you agree that it's taking away the livelihood for creators who spent years developing a business and followers and friends and things of that nature on the platform. We'd love to hear what you think. Make sure to head over to buymeacoffee.com/Samson King to make a small donation. We always appreciate it. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe to the channel. As always, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next time.